to the May 27th, 2026 edition of Council Services Committee. I will begin with a roll call. And so I see Councillor Morgan.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Councillor Clark.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Councillor Tang.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Councillor Stevenson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Councillor Wright.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And I will just check to see who we've got online. Councillor Salvador.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mayor Knack.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Councillor Rutherford.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Councillor Principe.
Hello.
Hello. Councillor Jans. He might be in the pool.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. There we go. And I believe that is all for today. I'll begin at this time to, I'd like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and the Métis homeland, and acknowledge the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nakota Iska, as well as Métis and Inuit, and now settlers from around the world. And before we consider today's agenda, I will ask all members of council present if they have any pecuniary or conflicts of interest to declare regarding any of the items to be discussed. A pecuniary interest exists when an item could monetarily affect a member of council, their employer, or family member. A conflict of interest exists when an item could affect a private interest of a member of council, their employer, or family member. Do any members of council have a pecuniary or conflict of interest to declare? Hearing none, we will move to adoption of the agenda.
I'm just flagging, sorry, that Councillor Parmar is also online. She's on my phone.
Councillor Parmar.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I miss anyone? I don't think I did, unless they just recently popped up. Okay, so can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll motion that.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan, please vote.
A yes.
Thank you. Sorry, was that Councillor Parmar? Stevenson, thank you.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. And just waiting on one more from, thank you, we have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has failed. No, that is carried. Okay, so can we also get anyone to move approval of the March 11th, 2026 minutes?
I can do that.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. If anyone has any concern about errors or omissions, please speak now. Please vote.
Just waiting on one more. Thank you, we have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. Now, we don't have any protocol items that I'm aware of. I'll just check the room. No? Okay. And if anyone would like to select any of the items for debate, please do so now. Not hearing any. Oh, maybe. Oh, Councillor Morgan. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I got to select 7-2.
Okay, 7-2. And that looks like everything. So we can, what's that? Oh, Councillor Principe, please go ahead.
No, that's okay. Sorry, the item was selected already. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So let us vote on the report not selected. If anyone, We don't have to move that. We just go ahead? I always forget this part.
It doesn't need to be received for information. You can just go to your next item. You have received the report.
Okay. All right, so we don't need to, okay, great, it's received for information. Perfect. Okay, item 7.2, you're up. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
good afternoon. So we're in a unique situation where the Office of the City Clerk did receive a travel request. We don't have that authorization, so in partnership with the councillor making the request, we provided this information for your awareness and your consideration. There is a potential motion listed on the first page if this is something that Council Services would like to entertain.
Okay, thank you. So I guess sign up for questions, please. Councillor Morgan, you selected this. Do you want to begin?
Yeah, I don't have any questions at all, but I will speak to it. So.
Oh, you'd
Yeah,
like
and
to
I'll
speak to it?
bring
Okay.
a motion to it as well.
All right, Councillor Wright? Oh, sorry, Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. I will move that $3,000 in the 2026 common travel budget and conference, my conference budget be approved for Councillor Morgan to attend the Calgary Stampede
Thank
in
you.
2026.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Is that it? No other questions? Okay, good. I don't have any questions myself. Would you like to introduce or close?
No, you know,
Oh, actually, I see Councillor Principe just signed up. So go ahead, Councillor Principe.
Thank you very much, Chair Paquette. I just wanted to ask a question of the clerk. Typically, or maybe the chair, typically this would be covered under ward budget, is that correct?
So per the expense policy, the request for this came in under the common budget, and per the expense policy, emergent needs can come forward outside of the annual report. So the process for that, if there is a request outside of that annual report, is to bring it forward to be added. So that's what we've done here.
As well, there are two other people that have had their travel previously approved for 2026 by Council Services Committee, so this is completely in order.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. So if I were to request an amendment to the motion to make it $6,000 for myself to be included in that, is that possible, or would that have to be done at a different time?
No, that can be, if there needs to be any adjustments made to travel, particularly as it relates to Stampede, now would be a great time to do it.
And we'll go ahead and throw that on. That's in order. And we may have another request.
Sorry, so are we changing this now?
Yep.
Okay.
Just so to be clear, it's an amendment, so Councillor Principe, you're making an amendment to
Yep.
change the motion on the floor, to change 3,000 to 6,000, and to insert your name as well after Councillor Morgan's. Is that correct?
That's right.
Correct.
Can-
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Is that a friendly amendment?
Excellent. Okay. Do you have any questions? No? Okay.
No questions
All
at all.
right, Councillor Tang, please go ahead.
Well, since we're just adding numbers here, so I was one of the two that was approved previously, although my amount was $2,000 because I was trying to lean on the prudent end. But for the sake of equity, I will just amend it to add another $1,000 for myself.
Okay, and that would be because you had curtailed the amount of time you could spend, and now you'll be doing a little bit more advocacy?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, perfect. All right, thank you. I think that's friendly. I'll look around. No objections? Is it clear?
Crystal?
Yep, okay. So we'll just wait for wording. And while we're waiting, I better let's just take temperature. Is anyone else planning on attending Stampede in order to advocate for the city and engage with our government partners?
Yeah, so just to be clear, so clerks are going to amend what's on the screen so that it would be that at $7,000 in the 2026 common travel and conference budget be approved, $3,000 for Councillor Morgan, $3,000 for Councillor Principe, and an additional $1,000 for Councillor Tang. Thank you.
That looks perfect, yeah. Okay. All right, Councillor Principe, are you in a second round?
Yes, that's right.
Yep, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair Paquette. I did want to point out, to Councillor Tang's point, should we put up to $7,000 or is that even necessary?
It's not-
Because chances are it won't cost $3,000
So
for myself.
it's not necessary. We pay out on expenses, so if it comes in at 2,700, then that's all that would be covered. So I don't think that amendment's necessary, but great question.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No, that was a good question. Councillor Tang, you're on the board still? No. No? Okay. All right. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this motion? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the clerk's office for putting this together, and yeah, I apologize. I totally missed it when it came up when we first started this term, so appreciate that and appreciate my colleagues' support. So, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Jans?
I was wondering if we could amend the motion to take $3,000 and give it to all of the other councillors who aren't going to Stampede that they could use for constituency work or other advocacy measures in their community. I do think there is some feel value that Stampede is advocacy, but I think there's a lot of advocacy that we could do within our wards for that $3,000.
If you would like to make a subsequent, and I'm not sure if that's an order,
Yeah,
but
that's a
we're
sep-
already speaking to the motion.
Okay, then I would suggest that's a subsequent. I would concur with the chair.
So,
Thanks.
and just if you have it fully thought out and the wording, then feel free to make that subsequent. Otherwise, I think it was probably better suited as a standalone motion.
So we just need to check the policy. So if we could just
Yeah.
deal with the motion on the floor, we'll just look up the policy. Taking money out of the common budget to give it to the ward budget, just need to
Yeah.
just need to make
Well,
sure
I
that-
guess I had in mind kind of a replacement motion that instead of us giving one counselor, we would just across the board give all 12 counselors $3,000, and if they choose to go to Stampede, they could do so.
So just for clarity, council's policy requires council services committee to approve travel from this budget. If the money for travel does come from the ward budget, then committee approval is not required. So
Yeah. I just think this is a really tedious process for future as well, too, that we have to have a meeting to discuss this. Like, I would rather do a replacement motion where everybody just gets $3,000 and they can choose to go to Stampede or not, and they can pay for that out of their ward budget with the $3,000 or not. And then we don't have to have a meeting about this.
Okay, so it sounds like that is going to need a little bit of work, so I would recommend you take it offline and work on that motion and see what is actually allowable. And we can have that conversation, probably not today, but after we've had a chance to think about it and go through the policy. Does that sound fair?
No, I think we could vote down this motion or use a replacement motion and just use the.
I'll put it another way. I don't think it's in order. And I haven't seen your motion, so I can't say for sure. So if you have a motion prepared as a subsequent, let us know, and then we can take a look at that and make a determination. Sound fair? Okay. Did we lose you, Councillor Jans? You might be on mute.
Oh, no, I just turned off my mic.
Okay. Is that it for you?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tang, are you on the board? No. Okay, Councillor Wright?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, so the other travel and that is approved for various board representations, I guess, and the Stampede doesn't represent a board. I'm wondering, what sort of, what's the return on investment? I was thinking of maybe doing an amendment that the councillors attending then maybe report back to the rest of council as to the results of their advocacy? Is that necessary to have this amended, or can I just ask my colleagues to provide results of that? Okay, I'll just put that out there and that'll be
Yeah, I think
to
that's
you.
fair. I think
Okay.
generally if we are engaging in travel, a report back is just, that's,
Because I know we do annually talk about the other boards and that we're on, so, and this has never come up on that, so
Yeah,
that's my concern. Thank you.
I'm not hearing any objections. I think it's probably going to be in the course of events, yeah. However, if we want to formalize it, Councillor Tang, do you have any thoughts?
No, just to say that we do talk about CMP and participation and conversations during our intergov update. Maybe they're not quite as formal as board representation, but it does come up. And hence why a few years ago, we made the decision to include CMP as part of the common budget travel because of the value.
Yeah, and that has generally been the practice in the intergov updates that councillors do report on the travel that they've engaged in and what the results were. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so that was a little bit of an unorthodox foray as we were speaking to this motion. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this motion? No? Okay, please vote. Oh, Councillor Rutherford, would you like to speak to the motion?
And I'll,
Yeah, I just was going to be very brief and just say, I think that this is a good use of funds and I support all counselors that want to go to the Stampede to go to the Stampede. I'm personally not going to the Stampede due to personal commitments. And I don't think we all need to be there necessarily every time, but I do think, in my experience, you are in a lot of rooms with the people that Albertans and Edmontonians expect us to collaborate with, to partner with, to better Edmonton with. So I say kudos to every councillor that put their name forward to go and to do that this year, and appreciate everyone's efforts, and it's money well spent. And I encourage my colleagues to support.
Thank you. I will speak really briefly to this. Having gone for intergov purposes to Stampede in the past, I can tell you it isn't fun. It is a slog. It is meeting after meeting, encounter after encounter, advocating for the city of Edmonton. And the Stampede is the largest event in Canada for government relations. Without doubt, you have people coming from every corner of the country. You've got politicians, you've got leaders, you've got the Prime Minister, you've got the Premier, you've got ministers and MLAs on the Alberta level. And it's a time to really, really get your voice heard. I will tell you, for example, I just had a meeting with a minister today. It was 6 months to get that meeting because schedules are so constrained. At Stampede, you can knock out a number of meetings really, really quickly and get a lot of work done and forward a lot of city objectives. So it is work. I think maybe in the public they hear Calgary Stampede and think you're going to the fairway. Obviously, absolutely not. This is work. And again, I'll add my voice to Councillor Rutherford to say thank you to the councillors who are making time to do it, because it is, if you're doing it right, quite exhausting. Okay, thank you. And if there's no one else, please, okay. Councillor Stevenson to close.
very briefly to say, I was a Stampede skeptic for a long time, and then had the opportunity to attend a couple of years ago, and really saw the immense opportunity that it presents in terms of having access to a range of other orders of government, key decision makers in both the political sphere, and also partners that we can partner with, helping to attract businesses to Edmonton and really putting a best foot forward. So again, really appreciate colleagues who are stepping up to do that this year. I know that their travel will be in line with our policies that ensure prudent spending, and that all of my colleagues will be working to minimize those expenses as much as possible. So well worth it, and look forward to supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote.
Councillor Palmer is a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer.
No.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. 11 to 1. All right, so I am not aware of any councillor inquiries, and we would have heard that to begin. Are there any motions pending? No. Does anyone have any notices of motion? I was not made aware of any. I do have one, and I will state it now. That administration prepare and return to council a report examining options for strengthening Edmonton's constitutional, legislative, and fiscal independence, including but not limited to existing and emerging legal pathways toward greater municipal autonomy, including mechanisms available under the Constitution Act of 1982, federal legislation, and applicable case law. Mechanisms to protect Edmonton's economy should Alberta elect to separate from Canada, including different structural models to allow Edmonton to stay a part of Canada. Opportunities for direct federal municipal fiscal arrangements that reduce Edmonton's structural dependence on provincial transfers. The role of Treaty 6 and Enoch Cree Nation partnerships in strengthening Edmonton's jurisdictional position within the Canadian Federation. Options for coordinated advocacy with other major Canadian municipalities toward a new national framework for urban constitutional recognition, and an assessment of what a renewed or entrenched city charter framework would require to be legally durable, in contrast to existing charter arrangements that remain subject to unilateral provincial amendment. And I will make that at the next opportunity. Okay, so if that is all, we are adjourned.